My webcam and mic suck, so deal. Okay, so the first question from Memphis was, what is the superior operating system for the casual user and the professional user, and why? Casual, it depends. Windows and Mac both have their advantages. If you know something about computers, I would recommend Windows because at least Microsoft lets you control your own hardware, while Macintosh wants to rule your entire life up to and including your music collection. Um, I like the Macintosh for completely clueless grannies and shit because they're just impossible to break no matter how incompetent you are. But, there's even an argument for some of the builds of Linux for like little web books or people who just want things to boot up easily and to surf the web and real simple stuff. So there's no real answer for casual users either. For the question of professional operating systems, it really depends on what you're being a professional at. Both Linux and Windows are perfectly passable programming platforms. Linux is, of course, the superior server platform, and I'd wished I had done the Sanguina server on Linux to begin with, and that's what we're converting over to now. As a graphic artist, if you're doing that professionally, there's effectively no difference between Windows and Macintosh at this point, and that's no matter what Macintosh says, and you can get better equipment for the same price. So in that case, I would say go with a Windows platform. Pretty much if you're a professional, there's no reason to select a Macintosh at all, but there's arguments for Windows and Linux. Aster asked, in a fight between Superman and the Sanguina staff, who would win and why? Superman, obviously, unless I rig the dice bot first. Daphne asked, given recent events, do you think it will ever be possible for Dementation to be usable by PCs in the game? Or do you think it's just too messy or overpowered? The short answer is no, I don't think we'll ever allow Dementation to be used by PCs in the game. But it's not because it's messy or overpowered. I always like Dominate more as a Malkavian discipline. It allows them to do more clever stuff and be a little bit more crafty. It's a bit more useful in game. It's kind of boring to have Malks of Dementation because instead of setting up situations and being kind of clever trickster characters like they are intended to in the books, they tend to be just people who run around going, blah, I make you crazy. And those are inherently less interesting characters. Also, there's a simple fact that Dementation is kind of useless. It's not until you get 4 dots in it that you ever really get into you're able to really do anything. Eyes of Chaos is already half replicated by Auspex's Danger Sense. Passion and the Hauntings are 2 disciplines that give on entrancement a run for their money for the most useful beginning disciplines. And even if you get Dementation at the high levels in a CAN game, if you use it on anyone, you're basically under death sentence. It's kind of like having Presence 5. If you use it, you've just signed your own death warrant. Guy asked, what is my favorite storyline moment in character and what made it so memorable for you? This is kind of a hard question to ask because we've had a lot of really good scenes over, 4 years of game now. And also picking out one scene from like the general malaise of everything I've run is kind of hard. The most, the moment that brings a smile to my face every single time is, my personal badass moment. My character was cool. Was the moment when Tyrell had the rocket-propelled grenade and blew up the Vodged with it and said Allah Akbar motherfucker. It's up on the quotables if you really want to watch it, really want to read through it. That was a great scene and was kind of epic. But that really wasn't a big storyline moment. That was more way just being clever and Rosie and Tyrell trying to put slot A into slot B on the strange object. And then, ultimately he was a rocket-propelled grenade launcher and he blew up the Vodged with it and the Sabbat scattered. But that's like an old school scene. I think very few of our current players remember that. The best scene I like setting-wise, as in just establishing why something is that way, I liked when the Tremere, who was trying to go Anarch, I forget his name at the moment, was killed in public by the Tremere from wherever far away. For those who weren't there for the scene, it was back when the Elysium was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and they used Chill the Windsaber to cut his head off. Everyone was sitting around. The Tremere was sitting there talking to the Anarchs. It was already known of the Tremere clan that he was trying to go and betray the clan, and then it started getting cold and frosty, and the fountain that was in the middle of the Metropolitan Museum started glassing over, and then there was a shing noise, and his head rolled off his shoulders. This is why most Tremere cannot get away from the clan. They have auspex that can find you, and they have scary thumb powers which can kill you. The most insidious little political moment I liked was when Valkos set up Marcus to get killed as a traitor when he was impersonating Louis. That just gave me a little bit of a chuckle, and was a example of the kind of fuckery which vampires should be engaging in all the time. Getting a little bit heavier, the most dramatic scene that I liked personally is if you go way back to the beginning of the game, when the caitiff was embraced in New Corsica, who was just a high school kid, and he ended up taking his high school prom hostage, and the vampires had to go collect him, and the kid was just completely shattered, and just didn't know what to do, and he was confused and sad, and he made Steph cry, and that's always the the Geiger counter for how emotional a scene is whether Steph cries or not. The best dialogue I've ever encountered, and the one in which the writing was the best, was the interview with Wilkins at the end of the Project Alexandria plotline, which is another very early on story. But you can see the text of that is actually in the front of the wiki, where he explains, Wilkins gives his view of New Corsica as this place that, is full of secrets and doesn't care and so forth. And that was really kind of good. I thought the writing of that scene came out really well, and the questions and all that. Glenn asked if he could get through a thread without asking a stupid question. The answer is apparently no.